Hi everyone. Thanks to the consulting people for taking more time. What they said was quite a bit more interesting and useful than what I'm going to talk about, but that's all right. Here we go. I'm sharing the screen. Is this working? Brian, can you see this?
Yeah. Sorry, I had to jump in.
Yeah. Well, speaking of creating extensions, which as the people in the previous panel noted is not always a good thing to do anyway. But if you are going to create an extension, I think naming is very important, actually. So yeah, I shouldn't say that this is not useful, because it is actually quite useful, and people can dismiss it as what's the term, bike shedding, but it's something superficial. But actually, a name is something an extension has to live with for a long time afterwards. So yeah, I mean, naming MediaWiki extensions specifically is tricky. With standalone software, you can pretty much just call it whatever you want, and that'll be fine. With MediaWiki extension names, there's certain rules that people follow. You can't just give it some, you can't just call your extension Fred or something. It should in some way describe what the extension does, but it shouldn't be too. I don't know if everyone is familiar with the concept of being too on the nose, too unimaginative, because then it can get confusing to talk about it. So yeah, I just randomly thought of good MediaWiki extension names, which I think fit this criteria of being imaginative but not overly so. Cite, echo, confirm, edit. I really like Parsoid. It's not really an extension, but I wanted to mention it. Extension names that I think are too literal and that should have been redone. Maybe it's not too late. Even for parser functions, which has obviously been around for a very long time. Parser functions, variables, which is actually going away, but not because of the name. Visual editor, widgets, maps, external data. They all you can basically say function X provides that same thing, X. And yes, I am actually directly or indirectly responsible for some of these, so I share some of the blame. Visual editor is interesting. There are actually two different extensions that have been called visual editor, and both I think should have had some other name. There's other extension names that are certainly imaginative, but I would just say are too long. Cognitive process designer, user page edit protection, and I apologize to anyone who's involved with any of these extensions, and as I've noted, I've made bad naming decisions as well. These aren't as bad, I would say, especially because you can turn them into an acronym, so that it makes it a little better. Single worst extension name, I would say, is structured discussions, which is both too long and too literal. Ironically, it was called Flow until 2017. Flow is a great name. It's sort of a perfect name. People said that it no longer really describes the extension, but I think that's fine. What about Semantic MediaWiki? It is long and literal, but I've gotten used to it. Everyone's gotten used to it, so that I guess trumps everything else. Finally, if you're in doubt, if you're kind of thinking of some new extension, if it too closely matches what the thing actually does, consider adding just a prefix, maybe a suffix or a random word to it. Case in point, my flex diagrams extension. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't even know if that was more than 5 minutes already. Yeah. Oops, I'm sharing. I should stop sharing. Thank you for listening to my lightning talk. I don't know if we should take questions or just move on to the next one.
there's a few just comments in there. Some people that are saying that from the Dutch perspective, having on the nose extension names is exactly what they expect. And
yeah, it just gets confusing to talk about. You have to always say the something MediaWiki extension to separate it from, like if I just called Flex diagrams, I would have had to keep saying the diagrams MediaWiki extension to separate it from actual diagrams.
And then Yaron's favorite is backwards time travel.
That is a good one. Yeah, you do get points for wittiness.
Oh, and maps for all, VE for all.
Yeah, VE for all, I think it's a pretty good one. I don't know. Is there, what was it, maps for all?
That's well, VE for all is Ike pointing out one that's probably good, and Yaron, I think maybe questioning one for maps for all. I don't know if that exists.
Oh, maybe maps should be renamed maps for all. Maybe it's not a bad. It's not a bad name.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
Okay.
all right. Bye.
Thanks,